Hi, welcome to the Habitual Creator, where we help you tap into your creative side. Have you ever had a gift to take to a party, but you forgot the tag? You've got a couple of options. You can take a piece of paper and fold it in half and write on it. You could run to the store, which these days nobody wants to run to the store just for something that small. Or with a few small supplies and your Cricut Joy machine, you can have a beautiful tag created in no time. So come along with us as we show you how it's done. Okay, so now we are going to talk about the supplies that we'll need for our project today. So we are working with our Cricut Joy, a tiny but mighty little machine. We also need cardstock. This is heavier than regular paper, so don't try regular paper with your tags. It just won't work. It'll be too flimsy, so make sure you get something heavy like a cardstock. We are going to use our Cricut Joy pen. We're using the black glitter pen today. We also need a paper trimmer, and I really like this Cricut paper trimmer because it has a little fold out arm that lets you cut anything that's up to 15 inches long and up to 12 inches wide. So it's really nice to be able to cut a variety of sizes of paper. And then finally, my iPad. I really love working with this with the Cricut. It's super easy to use and I can take my designs anywhere. So the first thing that we're going to do is kind of move some stuff out of our way so that we can have some space to work. So I'm going to scoot the iPad out of the way and I'm going to open up our paper trimmer. And I'm also going to move our pen out the way because we don't need that right now. And so I'm going to take a look inside of my pad. I've already kind of pre-selected the paper that I want to use. I just need to find it in the pad. And here we go. See if that's the first sheet. Here we go, first sheet. And one thing we're also going to need is our Cricut Joy mat, but I won't pull that out just yet. I know that the Cricut Joy mat is 4.5 by 6.5, and so that's the width and the length that I'm going to cut this paper on the paper trimmer. So the first thing I'm going to do is find the 4.5 mark. Make sure the paper is pressed up nice and even against that and cut. And then I'm going to turn it long ways and cut it 6.5. Again, making sure that it's really straight. And then I'm going to set these other pieces aside for something else. I don't need those right now, so I can just put them out of my way. And I'm all done with the paper trimmer, so I can also move that out of my way. All right, so now we're going to move on to Cricut Design Space. This is where we will actually design what we want the Cricut Joy to cut out. And so the first thing you want to do is make sure, especially if you have multiple machines, make sure that you click the little menu button and make sure that your machine selection says Joy. Or if you're using an Explorer, make sure that it says Explore. One of the things that I did once before was that I was cutting things out on my Cricut Maker, and then I tried to cut out a design on my Joy, and I kept getting this error message, and I could not figure out what was wrong. I even called into tech support and was so frustrated, and then I finally figured out that I was trying to cut something on the Joy, but I didn't have that machine selection switch. So make sure you have that machine selection on the machine that you're actually using. So we've done that, so we'll click off from here and we'll click New Project. Once we have New Project, we have a fresh, clean slate to work with. And one of the things that I like to do is go to images. Now I do have Cricut Access, which gives me access to many, many, many thousands of images. And so if you know that you're going to be using the Cricut quite a bit, you might want to look into it. An annual subscription is about $120 before tax, but it's so worth it for the tens of thousands of images that you get access to. So under search all images, I'm just going to say tag. And I don't really want anything really fancy because the paper that I'm going to use is really pretty. And so I want to use a pretty simple tag to be able to design on. So let's scroll and see if we can't find something really, really simple. And so you just kind of scroll until you see something that you like. I know I'm looking for one that's kind of a rectangular shape. Let's see, do I want this one or this one? Let's choose the blue one. That's pretty. So when you click on it, it's going to show it down here in your bottom right hand corner. And then you just click insert. And it puts the image onto your design mat. And so after I do this, then I want to be able to put my from to on here. And what's nice about this is that you can leave that from to generic, or you can actually put the name on there if you know who you're going to give it to. And so, even if you don't know that, you can say it's from Angela, and then to, you can leave that blank and handwrite that in whenever you're ready. And so you've got options for how you want to set that up. But for today, we're going to keep it super simple. So you want to click on the text button down here. And I always like to look at system fonts. I have a ton of fonts that I have bought from lots of different places. And with Cricut Design Space, you can use any of the fonts that are installed on your iPad or on your phone or on your computer. And so you literally have endless options for the types of fonts that you can use. And so I'm going to pick one that's pretty straightforward because I'm going to be writing it out on the Cricut Joy. And so I like this little backyard bouquet font. So I'm going to choose that one. And then I'm going to say from, and then I'm going to enter a couple of times, and I'm going to say to. And you notice you can't see my to on my screen because it's kind of down there on the bottom. But once I click off, I can then move it. Right? And I don't like all this space that's between the from and to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on it. And I'm going to go to edit. And then under line space, I'm going to click on that. And I'm just going to click the minus button until I kind of scooch them closer together. You can't see what I'm doing because it's kind of behind the numbers. But once I move, you'll be able to see. So I click off, and so now you can see that from and that to are much closer together. So I'm gonna now move that from to, and you see that little line that's going across? That means that I've centered the from to in the middle of this design. So I'm gonna let it go. And then under where it says cut, I need to change this to draw. So I'm gonna click on that, click on the little drop down and select draw. And I know that I'm going to use the glitter gel pen that I showed you guys earlier. So I'm going to click the glitter gel pen, and I am going to do black. It really doesn't matter what color you choose if you're only using one color pen. But I would advise if you're doing multiple color pens, you probably want to get the color as close as you can so that when you get over to the make it section and it asks you for the pen, you won't be confused as to what color you should be putting inside of the Joy to cut it out. So once I've selected my black glitter gel pen, then I'm going to click apply. And now you can see that it changed the look of this to look like actual writing. And then once I've done all that, then I'm going to click and hold and drag to select the from to and the tag. And then I'm going to go to actions, and I'm going to go to attach. And what that does is it makes sure that when I send this to make it, that it's going to know to draw it on top of the tag. If I didn't click that attach button, it would try to draw on one part of the paper and cut on another part of the paper. And that's not what we want at all. We want the from to actually draw out on the tag, and then for the Cricut Joy to know to cut out the tag after it's finished the writing. So I've kind of gotten this to where I want it. And here's the golden rule, guys. Save your work. One of the saddest things you can do is to go through all that design work and forget to save. I often save things to the cloud because I want to be able to access it either on my phone or on my computer or on my iPad at a different time. And if you save it on, like it says save to iPad, if I were to just save it to my iPad, it would only be available on my iPad. So I'm going to save it to the cloud so that I can always get to it. And so now it says saved tag to the cloud. Now that I've done that, now I can go to make it. And it gave me this little warning. It says this project is not supported by my current machine selection. So what this probably means is that I have something going on in this design that isn't quite right. So I'm going to click OK. and I'm gonna click on it because one of the things I didn't do that I should have done was check the size. So if I leave it as it is, this is gonna make a massive tag. This is not what I want. I don't want a massive tag. I want that tag to be no longer than about 2.5 inches. So I click on the width and I click 2.5. And because I left the little lock locked, it's gonna reduce the size proportionately so that way when I go to cut it, it's not all funny looking. It actually looks exactly like it did when I brought it in. It's just smaller. And the nice thing about it is because I attached everything got small in the same ratio. So you didn't have like the from to still really big and the tag smaller. Everything resized together. So that's also a nice function of the attach feature. So then click off, and then now I'm going to save it again. Just hit save and it'll save on top. And then I'm going to go to make it. And now I have some decisions to make. Either I'm going to cut it without the mat. This is for use with Cricut Smart materials. And then there are some materials that aren't Cricut that will also cut without the mat. But that is definitely experimental. Do that at your own risk. And then or on mat for any materials, or on the card mat, or you could potentially choose multiple ways. But we just want on the mat. Okay, so then we're going to click on that. And we know that our particular Cricut Joy mat is going to be that 4.5 by 6.5 inches. And so we don't need to change anything there. If we wanted to cut more than one, we absolutely could. So if I went here and erased the 1 and selected 3, now see it'll cut 3 on this particular size mat. But for today, we're just going to cut 1 because I'm just showing you what it looks like. We don't want to waste material doing that. Okay, so then after I have finished selecting how many I want, and I've already said I want it to be on the mat, and I double checked to make sure the size was right. Because this is not iron-on, it's just cardstock, we're not going to change this. This will do some funny business to your project if you click this and it's not heat transfer vinyl, which is also called iron-on. So we leave that turned off, and then we can go to continue. Okay, and I already said that we're going to use cardstock, so I've already got this in my favorites. So I'm going to choose medium cardstock. If I didn't have it in my favorites, I could click on all materials and I could look up cardstock. You could just type cardstock. And then you see there are several options. And if you see something that you know you want to be in your favorites, you just click the little star and it'll put it in your favorites. So I will click medium cardstock. And I'm gonna leave the pressure at default. If you clicked into this, you could say more pressure or less pressure. You would only wanna mess with that setting if for some reason you used your cardstock and it didn't cut all the way through, or you use your cardstock and it cut way through and started cutting through the mat. That's when you would want to say less. Now it's telling me that I need to install my pin first. And then later on, I'm going to need to install that fine point blade. So I'm going to reach over and get my cardstock and get it onto my mat, and then get my mat into the machine. So here is our Cricut Joy mat that I mentioned. This is the smaller one. That's the 4.5 by 6.5. So I'm going to take the little plastic cover off. Be sure to put it somewhere safe, but make sure you don't let this plastic get on the floor. It's super, super slippery and you can fall if you accidentally step on it. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to lay it pretty side down. So this, you see the pretty side? I'm going to flip it over, and that is going to go against the sticky side of this mat. And then I'm just going to lightly press it down. I am putting the pretty side down on the mat because I want to write the from to on the back side of the paper, not on the pretty front side. So you get the pretty look on the front, and then on the back you can flip it over and say from to. So now I see that my Cricut Joy is flashing, and so I need to insert the mat into the Cricut. So the first thing that we're going to do is insert the pen into the clamp holder. It's asking me to do that. Clamp it shut. And then it's going to draw the words from and to on the piece of paper that we've put on the mat. Now it's asking me to remove the pin and insert the fine point blade. I'm gonna put the cap on to make sure that stays nice and fresh. And we're going to put in our fine point blade and click go on the iPad. And now it's going to start cutting out the tag from the paper. Now that it's finished cutting out the tag from the paper, we just click unload. And here's where I like to take my mat from the paper, not the paper from the mat. So I turn the mat over and I just kind of bend it just a tiny bit. Don't bend it too much or you'll break it. And if you just pull a little bit, the excess paper will come right off. And then if we do the same thing with the tag, now we have a beautiful gold tag. There's a little spot there for a hole for ribbon. And then if you turn it over, you can very easily see the from and the to, and it's all ready to be put on a very, very pretty gift for someone that you care about. Once we're done with our work, we can click continue. And then if we wanted to, we can cut more. But if we're done, we can just click cancel. And then if you click canvas, it'll take you back to where you first started your work. And once you're done with this design, if you want to do something else, you can click on the home button and then say new project, and it brings you back to a nice clean screen and you can start creating something else. Well, I hope you enjoyed that super easy tutorial. If the tutorial was helpful for you, please like, subscribe, and also share the video so that other people can get in on the crafty goodness. Until next time, we hope you're tapping into your creativity to make something special. Toodles.